Hey everybody, what's up? This is Devin LaVore coming at you. Huge thanks to all of you who know that I start my videos out like this, with a big thank you to those who give to us and support us and bless us and send us help. God uses you to send us help from the sanctuary. Huge thank you. And if you would like to give, there is a Cash App, Venmo, and PayPal link below. You can click any one of those and keep us going. Amen. Okay, so I just want to say this really quick. Sometimes, we can be so close to the fulfillment of a thing that God's doing in our life that we don't see it because we're so close to it. I think sometimes the fulfillment of God's promises in our life can be right in the midst of us, but we don't yet see it. We don't really perceive it, That could have been Simeon's case, who held Jesus and said, "Oh, Lord, you're releasing your servant to depart," Luke 2:29. Jesus had clearly already been born, and there'd been some angelic chorus, and the shepherds saw it, and there was just this nativity scene and everything, but it was 8 days later that it encountered Simeon, But God can be working in a person's life and you not even know that God is in the midst of fulfilling. I watched a person who had a word from the Lord about what the Lord was wanting to do, a promise from almost like an Abraham type promise, and it was about 25 years into it. God was beginning to move, and God was beginning to speak vision and all of this stuff, and it's like I think he was so exhausted with hearing that stuff and never seeing the manifestation of it, that he literally actually said no. God gave me a vision of this guy in his office, and it was just him and the Lord, and he said, "No, I'm not going to do that," because he was so wrapped up in disappointment. I didn't understand it then, but I kind of understand it now. I still think it's an extremely highly dangerous thing, no matter how hurt and offended and broken you are, to say no to the Lord. Don't want to do that. No, thank you. No, thank you. Okay? No, thank you. And then there's a darkness that began to settle on that church, and people started leaving, and it was just not a good thing. And they just kept doing the same old stuff that they would always do, and I was like, there was something wrong there. And that's like God's judgment began to unfold. And I think about David, before he ascended the throne. He was in a somewhat of a difficult place himself, believing the Lord. He had been believing the Lord for so long. Sometimes we can be in a place where we're believing the Lord for so long for a particular thing, for this promise, for this thing that he said, that we can become so greatly discouraged that we're just like, our hearts are just in a dark place, and we're just crying out. We've heard enough prophetic words. We're exhausted with prophetic words and not seeing anything happen. There's just a deep disappointment. But if you continue to follow the Lord, he will continue to speak, and you will have to continue to exercise faith and speak faith and decree what God's saying and walk after him and go after him. You're going to have to continue to do that. And what you may not realize is that in the midst of you doing this next thing that the Lord has you doing, it's actually the very thing that's going to lead to the fulfillment of the promise, even though it looks and feels like all the other things that God's done in the past. And it's kind of like what we're going through right now, except there are some very distinct some subtle, some glaringly obvious differences between dress rehearsal and actually getting dressed for the real thing. Because dress rehearsal, it's all repeating and practicing the play that you're going to one day get up there on stage and actually produce. You're doing this thing now. This isn't dress rehearsal, this is the thing. It's kind of like what we're going through. It's like so much of what we're going through seems exactly like what we've been through a million times before, but there's so much difference about it. Like with our friends who visited recently at the end of July, and just so many different things, that have taken place, and we got a surprise visit from other friends, and just some of the stuff that Michelle's been working on while she has not been in front of the camera has just been epic. It's been prophetic and just prophetically fulfilling. And I'm thinking like, wow, okay, Lord, what are you doing? What are you doing? And what God's been doing in me personally by causing me to decrease. That whole, I think I'm shrinking, if anyone watched that video. It's like, that has been continually going on. My voice is going to start getting a little squeaky here in a minute. I'm getting so little. And just, there's too much to really explain and get out there and build it up and decorate it up to show you like what God's doing. It would take me and Michelle doing like an hour plus long video really to just paint the picture. But I just really believe we are in the midst of the fulfillment of the Lord. The Lord gave me that word. The struggle is over. And now here's the deal that you have to understand about prophetic things. Just because you are the one delivering the word, that doesn't necessarily mean it's for you. Not necessarily. Especially when you get into prophetic ministry, sometimes it's very clear that it has nothing to do with you. But doing it this way, and where you're just casting out nets, or you're like a plane that's going overhead and you're just dropping supplies into a region, you don't know who's going to get it, who's going to find it, if it's going to just be, you can come back a year later and be like, wait a minute, isn't that the package that dropped out of my plane a year ago? It's still here, no one took it. See, that's what it feels like. That's what it felt like when I was on tour with the band. Gosh, it was 25 years ago. But I was asking the Lord, I was like, does any of this apply to us about the struggle is over? Because today and yesterday was just a major, major struggle. Does that surprise anyone? The struggle's over. Now here you go into major struggle. And I'm like, wow. I was like, okay, you know what? I have to just, and so I just let the Lord just lead me today, and I could just see how the Lord's like, I am taking care of things. He is showing me as the days go on and as the time goes on and as he begins to reveal things, he's just showing like the struggle really is over. It's over. Even though like it's like you can, wherever you're from, if you go out of town and you come to this certain place and you go, oh yes, I'm home. Well, you're not technically walking through the door to your home, but you're in that certain area that you go, I'm home. A lot of times for us that happens when there have been times where we go on trips and then we come back, we hit this certain area of our sphere, our community sphere here, and we go, I'm home, and it's literally about maybe like actually 10 miles away from where we live, but there's just a sense of familiarity and a sense of like, I know this place, I'm home, and so for me, I just feel like that's how the struggle is over, is working out for me today. It's just like, okay, you're not like at this full-blown manifestation of things yet, but you're there. You're there. And it's like before, remember, like the Lord would say to me, he was like, remember, like about a year ago, I told you were going there. Now I'm telling you, you're there. And I thought, oh, okay. And so, but I think to wrap these two strands together, it has been such a struggle today that I have struggled to see how the struggle is over. I have struggled to see, because I am seeing like, I've struggled to see, but I've still seen like, man, God is absolutely doing something different and new and resurrecting and uplifting and prophecy fulfilling. I believe we're literally in the midst of it, but because I'm so small and I'm walking through grass that looks like trees, I can't see where I'm at. But I don't need to see where I'm at. God knows where I'm at, you know? And so I just wanted to share that with you guys. And I hope that it ministers to you in some way, that you want to just continue to say yes to the Lord. Don't say no in your grief and your struggle and your difficulty. Keep going to the Lord. Even if you feel like he's the problem, well, go to him, because he's also the answer. Amen. And let him rejuvenate your heart and your soul and your mind and your emotions, and let him heal your wounds. Woo, man. I'm almost about to break just saying stuff like that. But yeah, just let him do it. Keep saying yes. And you never know, you could be right in the midst of things being fulfilled. You're upset, you're bothered, you're struggling, but God's saying, look up, look up. Your redemption is drawing near. Not only that, but your redemption is actually here. Look up, see, look, see, you know? And when you look to him, you will see what he is saying. You will see what he's doing. You will hear his heartbeat. Amen. So I hope that blessed you guys. Until tomorrow, bye-bye.